Star Wars as a whole has been a huge part of my life, and it is by far my most favorite franchise of all time. I remember when the original Star Wars The Clone Wars movie came out in theaters, and at the time I thought it was so epic and different. An all-new take on the prequel era, with animation on the forefront, and a new interpretation of characters like Anakin, Count Dooku, and introduction of new heroes like Ahsoka and Captain Rex. After the movie released, Dave Filoni's team worked very closely with George Lucas himself to create a series unlike any other, a timeless show illustrating the Clone Wars in great detail. Even though the prequel movies were far from perfect, they paved the road for something better for Star Wars, and the show did a great job giving us a little more character building for our heroes and villains alike. To see Grievous get blown to shit on Utapau is a little more bearable knowing he did a lot in his time as the droid general. I mean, who can forget when he tore through Night Sisters on Dathomir, and when he took on countless clones, shredding through soldiers with his brute force. And we can all remember how amazing Darth Maul was in The Phantom Menace, as the first character with a double-bladed lightsaber, and how easily he was sliced in half by a Padawan. But the Clone Wars brought him back and gave him an epic story that bled into the Rebels TV show. What I'm getting at is the Clone Wars gave Star Wars fans great stories that really can't be beaten by any other piece of Star Wars material. The amount of heart and understanding of the universe made Star Wars The Clone Wars feel so authentic. So in 2008, when it was announced Dave Filoni and his team would be back to wrap up the series once and for all with a Season 7, fans all around had hope once again for Star Wars. And was it worth the wait? Oh yeah! Welcome to the Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 RageQuit review. We're going to have a lot of spoilers in this discussion, so if you aren't interested in hearing about any of the in-depth stuff until you've seen it for yourself, you best click off now. But for those of you that are staying, let's get into the good stuff. So we're going to divide this review into 3 parts, each one receiving their own rating, and then we'll add up the numbers for an official rating at the end of the video. So, starting off with part 1, we have the Bad Batch arc. Now, to be honest, the season does start off a little slow with an arc solely following Captain Rex and a clone commando task force known as, you guessed it, the Bad Batch. This particular squad of troopers are made up of genetically modified clone troopers that each have their own unique speciality. The whole premise of this arc is basically Rex finds out that ARC Trooper Echo is still alive somehow. And if you don't remember, Echo supposedly died in one of the earlier seasons, and he was one of our favorite clones because we saw his story start from his days as a cadet, training in the cloning facility, all the way up to his time as an ARC Trooper. And when we thought he died, it was pretty sad to see him go, but with this new season, it seems that Echo is alive and has been captured by Separatists, his mind being hooked up to a machine to extract Republic battle tactics from his mind and giving them to the enemy. This arc kind of serves as a rescue mission, and the episodes start off pretty short. It was cool to finish Echo's story as he gets rescued, helps the Republic on a mission, and eventually becomes a part of the Bad Batch squad because of his cyber enhancements. But I honestly feel like this arc could have been over with in like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, not several. The Bad Batch squad themselves were badass, don't get me wrong. They had their own spotlights, and when they were in the fights, they actually felt like real elites, but character-wise, they weren't very likable because of their elitist attitudes against standard clone troopers, or normies as they call them. I think if they eased up on the shock factor of, oh my god, Echo's alive, and focused more on the Bad Batch themselves, we could have found out a little bit more about their personalities and not so much about their abilities. But on the other hand, there were some really good parts of this arc. We touch up a little bit on Rex's character, sacrificing loyalty to the Republic by speaking out about his passion to rescue his brother and going against protocol, and we also find out that Obi-Wan knew about Anakin and Padme's communication throughout the prequels. Overall, the arc was okay, but the storytelling was just a little lacking in some areas, and the episodes were a little short, whereas the entire mini-story was too drawn out. But it did have some good parts, and it served its purpose. I'll honestly have to give it a 3 out of 5 considering it is only the first arc of the season. It's gotta start somewhere. The second arc is a little more down to earth and doesn't really focus on the Clone Wars that much. This time the story follows Ahsoka as she's trying to survive on Coruscant away from the Jedi Order. She lands herself into an adventure starting off on the lower levels of 1313 with the Martez sisters. This was kind of a lame arc as well, in my opinion, because Ahsoka follows these twin sisters who are kind of like smugglers, or maybe con artists to be more accurate. The 2 sisters take a job to deliver spice from the Kessel mines and give them to an intergalactic crime syndicate known as the Pikes. The arc kind of focused a little bit too much on how the sisters don't really put their faith on the Republic or the Jedi, so they fend for themselves and live for survival, and they don't trust anybody but each other, all the while Ahsoka's just attempting to hide her Jedi past and Force abilities. I don't really think this arc in particular helped us care about the sisters too much. They weren't really likable either, and we only really wanted to know what Ahsoka was doing after she left the Order. I guess it was kind of nice though to know that not everyone cares for the Jedi and to get an outside opinion of what's happening in the universe around them, but it was pretty bare bones compared to what we could have gotten. The Pikes were pretty cool, don't get me wrong, and we find out they've been working alongside Darth Maul as he's still in control of Mandalore despite his run-in with Darth Sidious in the earlier seasons. And of course, the job Ahsoka and the sisters are contracted doesn't really work out according to plan, and they gotta fight their way out of Pike imprisonment. This part of the arc, to me at least, was a waste of time because it wastes 2 episodes of the 3 of them trying to escape. But at the end of the story, we do find out that Mandalorian rebels led by Bo-Katan have been following Ahsoka this whole time and want her to help take back Mandalore. And for some reason, Ahsoka agrees to meddle in Republic and Jedi affairs to attack the planet and capture Maul. But other than Ahsoka being in it, these couple of episodes didn't really have any other substance other than giving Ahsoka a reason to go back to the Jedi Order, thus starting the Mandalorian siege. So I'm gonna give this one like maybe a 2.5 out of 5. The third arc is by far the best I have ever seen out of the 7 movies. Even though Ahsoka's reasoning for her involvement are kind of piss poor, it was awesome to see her and Anakin reunite. As Bo-Katan also asked the Republic to help retake Mandalore and capture Darth Maul. At first, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a little hesitant to go invade another planet because doing so would violate treaties between the Mandalorians and the Jedi, but eventually he does give in and lets Ahsoka take her own task force of clone troopers to start the siege. And this part is very cool because it shows that the clone troopers are still loyal to her and haven't forgotten all the battles they fought together. The clones that she will take with them even go as far to redesign their helmets in her likeness. Obviously, Rex is extremely happy to be fighting with her again, and before Anakin and Obi-Wan embark on a mission to save the Chancellor from Dooku, confirming that this arc indeed does take place during the beginning of Episode 3, Anakin gives Ahsoka her lightsabers that he's been keeping after all this time, with new blue crystals in each one, which was pretty awesome. And as far as the siege goes, it was amazing seeing the clone troopers and Bo-Katan's militia fighting Maul's Mandalorians. It felt like an actual siege which lasted quite some time, as Obi-Wan checks in with Ahsoka and reveals that Count Dooku is dead, and she also talks to the Council about the attempt to destroy Grievous on Utapau. So the end of the Clone Wars as we know it is coming to an end. Maul and Ahsoka have a really intense and photorealistic lightsaber battle, which was actually mocapped by choreographed actors including Ray Park, who plays as Darth Maul of course, which was actually brilliant, I'm not gonna lie. And we do find out that Maul kind of knew what Sidious was planning all along, and he strategically let him be known to the Jedi, so that hopefully Obi-Wan and Anakin could come after him themselves, so he in turn could maybe kill Skywalker before he had a chance to turn to the dark side. After his battle with Ahsoka, he does get captured and the siege is now over, handing the fate of Mandalore over to Bo-Katan and her allies. As Maul is kept in an ancient force using prisoner containment, which is like an ancient relic from her Bo-Katan's sister, Ahsoka, Rex, and the Clone Legion she is represented by make their way back to Coruscant, but this is where everything starts to change. On their way back, Rex gets a secret transmission from none other than Darth Sidious. The time has come. Order 66 has begun. Everything that happened between our clone characters and Jedi is just about to be washed away in this infamous purge we have only recently seen in the prequel movies and Jedi Fallen Order. And when Rex gets these orders to put Ahsoka down, he struggles for a minute with tears in his eyes, telling her to find Fives before he gives in to the inhibitor chip and attempting to blast her, causing chaos. As the rest of the clones on her ship give in to Order 66, Ahsoka has kind of an emotional first encounter with the clones. The Order 66 theme swells and Ahsoka is deflecting blasters, and it kind of hit me like, wow, they're actually gonna go through with Order 66 in this season. And at this point, it was only the second to last episode. Eventually in the episode, Ahsoka does escape and looks in the clone database for Fives, the clone that knew the truth about the inhibitor chip before he died. Fortunately, Rex did make a report that went unnoticed about his suspicion about the chip after the Fives incident, and Ahsoka managed to isolate Rex and extract the chip with the help of some droids. And now, Rex is back to normal, but they've got a whole ship of clones who want to kill her and Maul. As if Order 66 couldn't get more difficult to watch again, in the next episode we get to see Maul completely slaughter our clone boys in a Rogue One-esque scene. Ahsoka let him out to cause a distraction, So that's exactly what he did, and I was kind of surprised by the scale of violence they showed, like Maul's decapitating clones and impaling them with pieces of the walls, completely manhandling these guys. It was insane. He even manages to get to the hyperdrive area and completely destroys it, kind of paying homage to The Force Unleashed when Starkiller brought a destroyer to the ground. Maul's ripping out these giant mechanisms with the Force in it, just decimating the hyperdrive system. All the while, Ahsoka and Rex are trying to escape, but need to get through a whole army of clones. Long story short, Rex and Ahsoka do make it out a-okay. Maul finds a ship and takes off, and all of the clones, including ARC Trooper Jesse, are dead from the Star Destroyer jolting itself from hyperspace and crash landing on a moon. These last couple of scenes didn't really have any dialogue, and I thought this was completely fine. As Ahsoka buries all of the clone troopers from the Star Destroyer that she once fought with and leaves her saber behind, the Clone Wars is finally over. Then it transitions sometime later and we see stormtroopers on the same moon. It kind of looks different, it's snowing a little bit, and we see a shuttle land, and Darth Vader himself walks out and goes to the crash site. There he finds Ahsoka's saber, turns it on, and looks up to see Moray flying in the sky. And I gotta say, Vader does look pretty badass in this scene. He turns around and walks away, and we see this through the reflection of a clone trooper's visor, and this is an iconic shot. It represents everything that the show was. The clones, Ahsoka, with her design on the helmet, and Anakin, the Jedi who fell to the dark side. And that's it. Show's over. You already know I gotta give the Siege of Mandalore / Order 66 arc a 5 out of 5. It was so good, and it was an amazing end to an amazing show. So, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 gets an overall 9 out of 10. I bet you guys didn't see that one coming. Honestly, if the last arc wasn't as good as it was, the season would be getting a much lower score because of the previous two, but I almost felt like the first two arcs were kind of just building up to the real epic conclusion we've been waiting for. Sure, the Bad Batch and the Sisters weren't nearly as interesting as Order 66 and seeing it unfold in the eyes of Ahsoka, but I guess they did do their job. But the last 4 episodes of the show are what you're really looking for. Thank you so much to Dave Filoni and his talented team for giving us one last adventure with the clones we all grown attached to. You guys truly made something special for Star Wars fans in these pretty weird times. But guys, what do you think about the 7th season of The Clone Wars? Let me know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed my review, and subscribe to RageQuit for more videos coming soon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.